This door right here is the biggest source of any of my troubles because I just recorded a vlog about Magos content or something, and it was a sort of a thought experiment. I got people asleep in literally the room across from me, so I can't talk loudly. And, my delivery was sort of stilted and bad in that video. I mean, the content itself wasn't all that bad, but the delivery wasn't bad because I was sort of in this nervous haze of not wanting to talk too loudly because of this door. If I had the money to buy a door, there would just be constant vlogs all the time. Literally tonight, I've had, tons and tons of ideas for stuff I just want to get up and record. I just want to get up and talk about things in my room. I just want to get up and talk about reviewing food was even one of them. I know that sounds sort of boilerplate and annoying, but I had ideas that were attached to that were interesting. I wanted to get up and talk about, what room designs can say about a person and how they affect a video, things like that. I had ideas for a video. And I need to set up the camera in such a way, I need the room to be, put together in a certain way. I need to be loud to accentuate my voice. Instead, everything I record sounds like ASMR because I don't have a door, and because I will wake up or disturb or embarrass myself by talking to a camera this late at night when other people are trying to sleep. And this is the only time I can record because I hate the daylight. I hate the way it makes the room look. But I can't seem to do anything about it because this door right here is just keeping me from recording anything. Everything I record has to be very, very low volume, and it doesn't make things sound good at all. It's not good. It's not the good. I don't like it. So it's a bit of a predicament when you have so many ideas and when you're so excited, especially after thinking my SD card thing that I used to convert footage to the computer was broken, and then finding a homebrew fix for that, basically being able to transfer files to the computer again, so wow, I can record vlogs again. Oh wait, I can't record vlogs because I have this existential nightmare of not having a door. It's terrible. I will rant about this forever. I really hate having to whisper into this mic like this, because I know the walls are so thin in here that this is the only way I can make videos. If you go back through my channel in 2017, I had been living in a living room. When I was living in a living room, I could only record videos at either times in which no one was awake, and usually people were awake even at night, or they could hear me well enough, or when no one was home. Rarely did anyone leave the house, but when they did, I took the opportunity. So I couldn't record videos in that living room most of the time. I was stuck. I was stuck being where I was. So what I ended up doing was I would go outside to record. Now, there was this one time where I was shouting into my camera, and I was really upset. I was having like an emotional breakdown as I was recording this vlog. I didn't release it at the time, but I was having an emotional breakdown into this camera for like 20 minutes. Like, I was like yelling, and I was ready to cry. Now, this was 2 years ago. And there was this neighbor. This neighbor kind of walked around the house, and he started walking towards me. I could tell at that point that he had been listening to a lot of what I had been saying in the camera. So I don't know if he told my dad about it at the time. I don't think he did, because my dad would have probably mentioned it, but he heard what I was saying. He heard me shouting about how much I hated people, and how much of a screw-up I was, how bad of a person I was. He heard all of this. And I was really ashamed when I saw him hear the things I was saying into this camera. I ran into the house as fast as I could. I was scared. Well, there have been other instances where I was having conversations. I guess, either with myself or with people on Discord during that year. And people would hear what I was saying in the house, and I would get very, very ashamed of the things I was saying, of the way I sounded. And I didn't want them to hear what I was saying on the microphone. So I almost never recorded anything during that time. Go back a couple years before, 2015, 2016. Both those years I did not have a door. I started to become more nocturnal because I didn't like the sunlight, I didn't like being out at the daytime, and I knew I could get more done, because if my mom was asleep or if my dad was asleep, and there got to be a certain point during that year when my dad just wasn't around, but we know when my dad was asleep, my mom was asleep, I could record more YouTube videos. Or, and this was also another thing I was ashamed about, was I would get really scared when one of them would see what was on my monitor screen. Very, very scared. So, what I would do was I would put a blanket over the monitor screen as I was watching YouTube videos. And this actually burned up the monitor screen a little bit because it was a CRT, and that catches heat. I put the blanket over the vent, so I felt stuck. In each case, parents might find out what I'm recording, and it hinders the recording because I start to get so ashamed that I just couldn't record anymore. They see what I'm watching on YouTube, and that I was ashamed of. You go to 2017, it's the same thing again. At 2018, it's largely the same thing when I'm living at either house. And then something interesting happens. We start to get to, what was it? It was July. I think it was July, late part of July, that we moved out of either of those houses. Didn't stay with my dad in the trailer that I stayed in 2017, where I had to sleep in the living room. Didn't stay in my mom's house, where I stayed in the room with no door for most of my life. And so I thought, wow, we're gonna move somewhere, I'll finally get privacy, right? So we move, Oklahoma. I'm in a trailer again, and this time the lock doesn't work. And what do you know? The walls are thin as hell. So anytime I record a video, it has to be while people are gone, or alternatively, it has to be a video that's very, very quiet. Can't let them hear the YouTube video, because I start to stutter more, I start to feel more ashamed of what I'm doing, and I get upset. I can't have that. I can't have people hearing what I'm doing, because the way I talk in the videos was so fundamentally different from the way that I talked to them that I think it almost provided a culture shock. There were secrets that I said in videos that I did not want them to ever know, things about my personality that I did not want them to ever know. So I kept going. And by the time August, September, and these kind of months roll around, I end up getting to the abuse shelter in Virginia. Now, when I was living in the abuse shelter, I didn't have any privacy either. I stayed in a room with my mom and my sister in that shelter the entire time. Eventually, I got my own little room once the other family left, but the walls were extremely thin and you could definitely hear through the door. So I had no privacy there either. Then we get to Maine. Now, by the time we get to Maine, it's a little bit easier on me. I have my own room. The walls aren't so thin, but if I talked loud enough, she could still hear me. And so even though this time I had a door that locked, this time I had sturdier walls. She could still hear me if I talked loud enough, but it was an upgrade. It was an upgrade from having no lock, no door, no room, from having walls that are so thin that you can hear it all the time. These kinds of things. And so, we get to Nevada. By the time we get to Nevada, we don't even properly get a house. We're just living out of hotels or on the street or wherever. And then we go to Kentucky. All the way back. Tennessee is right under Kentucky. We started in Tennessee. We go to all these different states. We go all the way back. And here we are in Kentucky, in the house that I'm currently in. And I thought in the beginning that I was free to record, because I didn't think my voice would travel through the walls. No, I didn't. But I was wrong. Most of what I was saying could always be heard, and of course I stayed up really late at night to have the precaution that no one would hear it, but I did not know just how much could be heard through these thin-ass walls. And when I made those videos in the summer of 2019, in November of 2018 onward, I was operating under the assumption that I could not be heard. That wasn't true. Here I am, having to talk to you as quietly as possible. I'm not just as nervous as I used to be about being heard, but I'm still nervous about it. I hope that one day I don't have to deal with this anymore. I hope that one day I can record whatever I want whenever I want, and there's not going to be any embarrassment associated with making a blunder. I'm not going to feel different recording as loudly as possible when other people can hear it. I'm not going to always wonder, how thin are the walls? How far can I project my voice until someone hears? Those things aren't going to be in my mind. I'll be alright. That's the difference. That's the difference between freedom and not, is that you feel like you're safe when you're doing the things that you want to do. I don't feel that way. Haven't felt that way for pretty much my entire life, except in very brief periods. And some of you wonder why I counted the days on the calendar for so long until I would be able to get out on my own. That's part of why.